Hello everyone, welcome to Analog IAS Current Affair Analysis for 16th of June 2021. These are the articles that we'll be dealing today. Needed full disclosure on electoral bonds. This article is about the opacity associated with electoral bonds. Now, we're talking about the concept of electoral funding and how corporates can influence democracy and democratic institutions. So, for an effective functioning of the democracy, the institutions should remain independent of any external factors, and this includes even the corporates. What happens if corporates influence elections? It leads to a phenomenon called crony capitalism. Now, what is this crony capitalism? It's a distorted form of capitalism where oligopolies or monopolies try to control the governments, and governments will be supporting these corporates because they are actually funding the political parties. This is a cycle which continues on and on. In order to sideline this, the government has actually brought down electoral bonds. The fact that the parties can anonymously get funding through these electoral bonds, which are bearer bonds, that is, they don't have to disclose the identity of the donor. But the problem here is, recently, that is almost 3 years ago, in the Finance Act of 2017, there was an amendment which has fundamentally defied the logic of corporates trying to fund electoral funding, and the principle of independence of institutions might be under compromise. Now, what is that Finance Act provision which was actually amended? Now, for this, you have to understand a comment made by Delhi High Court in 2016. So, Delhi High Court in 2016 said that both the parties, that is the BJP and the United Progressive Alliance led by Indian National Congress, both the parties are equally guilty of using the corporates as a source of funding for elections. In order to legitimize this, Finance Act 2017 was amended to give a retrospective effect to legislations that remove the clause in RPA which say that only 7.5% of the net profits of companies in the last 3 years is the limit imposed on funding for governments and political parties. That limit was done away with because this is a violation of FCRA 2010, Foreign Contribution Regulation Act. Now, the particular case of comment, or the context in which Delhi High Court commented, was that there was a company which donated a certain amount to a political party, but that entity was actually a sister concern of a foreign company. Now, how is it possible that the parties are accepting such kind of funding? This provision is actually laid down in Companies Act, and violating these norms is actually a violation of the FCRA norms laid down by the Parliament itself. How can this Finance Act create a legislation in such a way that it will legitimize this opacity to a large extent? Ironically, both the opposition parties and the party in power, both of them have not condemned this, or they have not denied anything about it, and there was a rare unanimous expression about the consent for this legislation amendment. So, in this context, the question is not just about the legislation but about the intent. In order to establish trust in our democracy, we have to create institutions that showcase transparency and accountability. So that is the gist of this article. The article suggests that unless and until there is transparency in this funding mechanism in elections, criminalization of politics is a trend that will not subside. That is the gist of this article. America's mistakes in the forever war. This is about the withdrawal of US troops from Afghanistan at the height of the influence of Taliban. Now, just to give a brief context, after the 9/11 attacks in 2001, US started a engagement with the Pakistani and Afghanistani terrorists in the uh, Afghanistan region, the borders of Pakistan and Afghanistan, and tried to subjugate the influence of Taliban on the society. Historically, Afghanistan was considered to be a buffer state, and because of the guerrilla warfare techniques adopted by the Taliban in this region, it was very difficult to contain their influence. However, President Donald Trump in 2018 decided that Afghanistan should be left alone to the Taliban's, or there should be a peace talks with the Taliban and the civilian government of Afghanistan, and US should actually withdraw from this region, because the major motivation for this is US does not want to invest money in this region because the threat perceived by USA because of Taliban has considerably reduced. We all thought that after President Joe Biden comes to power after Donald Trump, he would certainly reverse this procedure, but he did not show any such signs. And recently, President Joe Biden has set the September 11 deadline, ironically, for all American troops to leave Afghanistan, and this will end the 20 years of invasion by the United States in the region. So last year, the peace talks between Afghan government and Taliban started in Doha. Therefore, the talks between Afghan and Taliban, that is Afghani government, Taliban, and the US government. The context is that. So, if you get a question in prelims about Doha, don't get confused. It is not about the World Trade Organization. It is about the Afghan peace process. So, the bid by the US to hold a summit in Istanbul recently. The reason for this summit is that there were two warring factions, that is the Afghani civilian government and the Taliban. They were fighting in between them when US actually wanted them to settle the issue very amicably. However, on the ground, Taliban are much stronger than they were in the last 10 years. The Taliban have seized 8 districts in 4 different regions. So clearly Taliban is growing. This is very evident from the kind of aggression they are exhibiting on the ground. As of now, 22% of Afghanistan's districts are completely under Taliban control, and 24% with the government, while more than half of the country's territories are contested. In 2001, right after the 9/11 attacks, US said that it is waging a war against terrorism. So, US made 3 fundamental mistakes in this war which led to its exit from this graveyard of empires. That is what Afghanistan is called, graveyard of empires, because no foreign power has been successful in establishing their hold over this region. Now let us look at the mistakes, the 3 mistakes. First one is US went into Afghanistan without learning anything about country. So the cultural context was completely missing, or they were blindsided by a unipolar bias towards their own objectives. They did not understand the locals properly. After they invaded Afghanistan, given the mistakes the British and Soviets committed, that is, we have discussed, right? Afghanistan, even previously, a lot of countries tried to manage their hold, but that didn't really happen. And the most prominent ones are USSR, that is Russia, and Britain, much before the independence of our country. That didn't really work out in their favor. So strategically, they always managed to maintain their autonomy, and they could have learned something about the mistakes that British and Soviets committed. Yet, they did not learn from history. So mistake repeated. Now what is this mistake? So they could have actually focused their entire campaign on just the enemy, Al Qaeda, which was behind the September 11 attacks. It should have gone after the terrorists, destroyed their networks, and then withdrawn. But what they did was they established much more ambitious goals. So they just wanted to topple the Taliban and rebuild a centralized democratic state in Afghanistan. They wanted to give Afghanistan a democracy. Now this is way too far-fetched. That is the reason why US has failed. Now US is actually retreating. Did it actually attain this objective? The answer is a clear no. In fact, the worst thing is Taliban is much more powerful than the time US actually entered into the Afghanistan territory. It is practically leaving Afghanistan to the mercy of Taliban in return for a guarantee from them that they would not assist the terrorists such as Al Qaeda. Now, the third failure is that after the Taliban regime completely was toppled, Al Qaeda driven back into the caves and mountains, US had a upper hand back then. They still had a chance to stabilize the country with the help from different factions. They could have left back then itself. And the Taliban back then had low negotiating power also. This is way back in the times of Obama. So their leader, that is the Taliban leader, a person called Mullah Omar, he should have been allowed to return home. But Americans rejected the offer, promised to destroy Taliban in every corner of the country. And given the fact that Taliban is an indigenous militancy and which has some deep roots in the Pashtun majority of Afghanistan population, it was not easy. It was not easy to defeat them in their own country. Yet they went after this objective without understanding the local population. By the time the US shifted its focus back to Afghanistan after defeating the ISIS in Iraq, Taliban has regained the strength, and this endless season of wars for the American army was too much to handle. Now, in this context, because of the fatigue that this wars caused, what the government wanted now was a truce with the Taliban, and they were forced to withdraw very peacefully. It seemed like a very concluding remark, and everybody thought that the war would not be again back into the picture. Now, ever since the Taliban made an agreement with US in February 2020, they have regained strength. They are attacking the civilians. The objective is to weaken the civilian government. So once the civilian government is weakened, they can have a terrorizing impact on the society, and they will hold the entire country under their clutch. So the war may be winding down for the Americans, but if you take a look at the situation of the people of Afghanistan, it is far from over. And that is the tragedy of this entire 2-decade-old process.